The courtroom is designed to be a bastion of law and order, which typically delivers this role. However, there are moments when it can become frightening, chaotic, and utterly unpredictable. Given the high stakes involved, it's easy to understand why. These courtroom scenes will shock you. In this video, we'll look at the most startling instances of chaos caught on camera in establishing law and order. These cases demonstrate how, despite the courtroom's intended atmosphere of law and order, the high stakes can sometimes lead to unexpected and disturbing events. But before we jump in, the details in these stories are graphic and may not be suitable for all audiences, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. As always, remember to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications to stay up to date with the channel. Alright, let's dive into the video. Chilling video footage captured in an Arizona courtroom shows a Wall Street trader swallowing poison after being sentenced to 21 years in jail for insurance fraud. The courtroom was tense on the day of his June 2012 verdict, as the jury delivered a guilty verdict. The guilty conviction came after firemen responded to a fire at a building owned by Michael Marin in 2011, which was acquired for $3.5 million. Michael had escaped the fire by climbing down the fire escape, but firefighters on the scene established that 4 distinct fires set in different room locations had sparked the fire. Michael Marin, who was 53 at the time, was found guilty of arson and faces up to 16 years in jail after it was suspected that the fire was lit on purpose for her to file an insurance claim on the residence. Arizona TV captured footage of Michael waiting to hear his judgment on June 28, 2012. As he learned he faced up to 16 years in jail, he was seen raising his palms to his face and carefully inserting something into his mouth after being pronounced guilty, all while hiding behind his hands. After a few minutes, he slumped and began to convulse as everyone in the courtroom rushed to help him. Despite their attempts, Marin never recovered consciousness and was eventually declared dead at the hospital. As the inquiry began, an autopsy determined Michael's death as a suicide. Detectives discovered a petrol canister of sodium cyanide in Marin's car, leading them to assume he consumed it while in court. "We assume that Michael made capsules out of this toxic substance before coming to court," stated by a spokeswoman. The spokeswoman also revealed that Michael recently purchased an online chemical suitable for agricultural usage. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office confirmed that Michael's son received a delayed email from his late father, stating that his wills were in place and his car could be found in Mesa. Michael really needed that insurance money, but to the outside world, he appeared to live a glamorous and luxurious life, spending money on Picasso drawings, a Rolls-Royce, flying around in his jet, and climbing 8 of the world's highest mountains, including Mount Everest. However, he ran into massive debt after acquiring a large property in 2008, and he believed that arson would have absolved him of his financial troubles. A mother's dramatic outburst was captured on tape after she was found guilty of killing and shooting her 6-year-old son 9 times at point-blank range. She was observed flipping off the court and abusing the judge after she was sentenced to life in prison. Julissa Thaler, 29, told a Minneapolis judge, "I'm innocent. Fuck you all. You're garbage," during her startling sentencing hearing.
Do it.
Yes, I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. You all, you're garbage. Absolutely, Your Honor.
Ms. Fowler, I don't know that that's appropriate here.
Sorry I told you what somebody else can.
Julissa was condemned to life in prison without the possibility of release after facing trial for the violent murder of her son Eli. The mother was observed flipping the bird and making irritated remarks as others touched by the incident delivered tearful testimonies about the horrific murder. The judge addressed the distraught mother and chastised her for making inappropriate remarks in front of the stunned court. According to Fox, Julissa said, "Sorry, I told you what somebody else can't." According to prosecutors, she shot the child 9 times with a shotgun while he was sitting in a booster seat in the back of her car. Despite previous drug and alcohol problems, the mother was recently given full custody of her kid. What I can't imagine, nobody can imagine, is that the person who takes the child from the world is the same person who brought that child in, Judge Jay Quam stated during the sentencing hearing. "Nothing I do will bring justice to the situation. Nothing I do would alleviate the anguish you created by doing that." Torrey Hart, Eli's father, had sued for custody just days before the murders, and apparently couldn't bring himself to speak during the sentencing. He is currently involved in a legal struggle with Child Protective Services, seeking $75,000 in a wrongful death lawsuit after Julissa was awarded full custody. Nikita Kronberg, the mother's sister, referred to her brother as a monster in her victim impact statement when recalling the small child she had fostered. Eli will forever be missed by so many people who loved him. He will always be in our hearts. Little Eli was discovered dead when officials pulled Julissa's automobile over for a cracked back windscreen and blown tire. Investigators discovered his remains in the car's trunk and some body pieces in a nearby dumpster. Julissa had blood and human flesh on her body when she was apprehended. According to records obtained by KMSP, she informed police that it came from a tampon and a deer she had picked up at the butcher. The murder weapon was found in the rear of the automobile, next to Eli's bones. Thaler had obtained full custody of her son barely 10 days before the murder. In addition to substance misuse, she suffered from depression and borderline personality disorder. Prosecutors alleged she conducted many disturbing Google searches in the days preceding the murder, including payment for life insurance if the child dies, and how much blood can a 6-year-old lose? The jury took 2 hours to deliberate and convicted her of the crime. Kronberg would state in court, "How could someone do such an evil thing to an amazing, loving kid? No one will ever know why she did this to Eli. We can only presume it was to keep Tori and Eli apart. However, this only separated them momentarily." A murderer who said Satan told him to murder his sister tried to escape from a Russian courtroom via the roof before being apprehended by security. Leonid Grazer, 18, was caught on camera climbing through a hole in the roof of the courthouse dock at Sherbinsky District Court in Moscow. In a video caught by Life, surprised police officers observed Grazer trying to climb out of his glass cage and onto the roof area above. The cops then deploy tasers as Grazer resumes his daring escape attempt. Eventually, the murder suspect is dragged down from the ceiling, losing his trousers in the process, and climbs back into the dock. Leonid eventually admitted to the murder of his 21-year-old sister, Ariada Korol. A Moscow court ordered him detention for 2 months. Ariada was discovered naked with several stab wounds in the corridor of an apartment complex, where she shared a home with her brother. A nude Leonid was detained while praying, according to local sources. Leonid was supposed to have claimed that Satan or Lucifer forced him to kill his sister. According to eyewitnesses, before police came, he stripped and drew satanic symbols in blood over his sister's body and his head. According to witnesses, he requested to release him of Satan. In a confession to Russian authorities that did not reference Satan or Lucifer, he was asked why he murdered his sister. "It was necessary. I did what I had to do." He wanted to overcome his doubts, he explained. He claimed to be aware of his activities. "I do not regret," he said to his interrogator, adding that he had excellent ties with his sister. He said that killing her would make it better. When questioned, "How will it be better if she is no longer with us, since you killed her?" he said, "Better is always onward." Neighbors claimed they heard the woman screaming before her body was discovered. They had been renting an apartment in New Moscow. According to reports, narcotics were located in the flat, which would explain a lot. In a dramatic courtroom trial, a Nevada man accused of felony violence is shown jumping into the air and striking a judge just seconds after assuring the official that he is a level-headed and conscientious individual. Deobra DeLone Redden, who was 30 at the time, assaulted Clark County District Judge Mary Kay Holthus at the Regional Justice Center in Las Vegas on Wednesday morning after she denied him probation. In November 2023, Redden pled guilty to attempted violence with serious bodily injury. He was detained last year on suspicion of assaulting another individual with a baseball bat. Redden's attorney requested probation in court last week. Holthus declined the request. In the video, she tells Redden, "It's time he got a taste of something else." The decision seemed to set Redden off. He yelled expletives before launching himself into the air and over the bench to assault the judge, who attempted to duck and hide. Redden fell partially on top of Holthus, pulling her to the ground. A courtroom marshal entered the brawl and sought to pull Redden away from the judge, but numerous others rushed to assist. Redden and other courtroom cops were observed swinging blows back and forth. The American and Nevada state flags behind the bench fell during the brawl. The courthouse alarm was triggered to notify other officials of the violent occurrence. According to the Associated Press, Holthus had minor injuries but did not require hospitalization. The anonymous courtroom marshal was also hurt and sent to the hospital with a bloody cut on his forehead and a dislocated shoulder. Redden was finally apprehended and imprisoned. He now faces many felony accusations, including violence on a protected person. Before the attack, Redden urged the judge to grant him probation because he is not a rebellious person, but rather one who never stops trying to do the right thing no matter how hard it is. Holthus heard Redden's explanation and then refused the probation. "I just can't with that history," she remarked, referring to Redden's criminal activity. He had already served jail time in Nevada for domestic assault and theft, according to state records. Redden's lawyer, Cesar Almaze, has not addressed the issue publicly. Marianne Price, a court information officer, told local NBC station KSNV that the court remains committed to a safe and secure courthouse and courtrooms. "We commend the heroic acts of her staff, law enforcement, and all others who subdued the defendant. We are reviewing all our protocols and will do whatever is necessary to protect the judiciary, the public, and our employees." A dramatic video released Monday shows a U.S. Marshal firing 4 times at close range at a defendant inside a Utah federal courthouse after he rushed the witness stand, leaped, and swung a pen at a handcuffed witness who barely backed away. The 24-second video from the 2014 gang racketeering trial was released after a media coalition, including CBS affiliate KUTV and the Associated Press, claimed it was a public record in a significant police use of force case. During the witness testimony, the video shows defendant Siale Angelao, a 25-year-old Tongan Crip gang member, quietly standing from his seat behind his attorney and snatching his lawyer's pen. As someone cries, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Angelao sprints towards the witness and leaps with his right arm cocked aloft, holding the pen. The man moved back to escape, being struck as Angelao toppled feet first over the front of the witness stand. That's when an anonymous U.S. Marshal shot Angelao 4 times. A lady yelled out in alarm as additional law enforcement officers in suits dashed towards the witness stand. Angelao's defense counsel jumped beneath a desk as prosecutors looked stunned. A bailiff quickly blocked the entry to the front of the courtroom, pointing at those in the gallery and instructing them to remain motionless with his right palm on his holstered firearm. "Get on the ground, drop the pen from your hand," an officer towering over Angelao screamed.
Walls.
Don't fucking move. Drop the pen. Drop the pen out of your hand. Drop it out of your hand. Stay right there. I'm on one.
As U.S. District Judge Tina Campbell was out of the courtroom, someone dialed 911 at the end of the leaked footage. According to former U.S. Attorney Brett Tolman, Angelao assured the judge that he wouldn't need to be chained if he behaved. When you have a jury, you always want the defendant to appear like he is in regular, civilian clothes, that he's not in handcuffs, that he has a fair shot at being treated fairly by the justice system, Tolman stated to the station. The anonymous U.S. Marshal was acquitted of any wrongdoing immediately after the incident. Lindsay Donahue, a Marshal Service spokeswoman, said the video demonstrates how quickly violence can erupt in any situation. She stated that the FBI cleared the officer of any misconduct and that a review board determined that the use of force was within agency rules. Donahue also cited a finding by U.S. District Judge John Dowdle, who rejected the Angelao family's wrongful death action, citing the video as evidence that the U.S. Marshal, referred to as Jane Doe in the order, behaved appropriately. The family said Angelao just had a pen, and the 4 rounds fired were excessive. Having carefully reviewed the video of Mr. Angelao's swift flight from the counsel table, his vault over the witness stand with pen in hand, and his attempt to attack the shackled witness violently, the court has little difficulty determining that the Jane Doe's use of force to stop Angelao's attack immediately was objectively reasonable under the totality of the circumstances, wrote Dowdle. Bob Skies, the Angelao family's attorney, provides an opposing viewpoint. He said the video reveals that the marshal panicked and should have used alternative tactics to control Angelao. He points out that Angelao was already on the ground for the last 3 bullets and that a courtroom packed with cops could have stopped him before he wounded anybody with the pen. Sykes stated, "There was no need to use deadly force. They weren't entitled to use the death penalty on him for an assault." According to Sykes, the Angelau family has not chosen whether to appeal the verdict that dismissed the wrongful death complaint. Angelau was one of the 17 people implicated in a 2010 indictment charging Tongan Crip members with assault, conspiracy, robbery, and firearms violations. He was the final defendant to stand trial, with preceding defendants sentenced to 10 to 30 years in jail. A mistrial was declared following the shooting. The Department of Justice requested that the video be kept under seal due to worries that it would lead to retaliatory gang violence. The faces of the judge, solicitors, and jurors are obscured. On Monday, the agency declined to comment on the video's publication. The Media Alliance, which included KUTV and the Associated Press, fought with government attorneys for several years to have the footage made public. They said that the incident highlighted concerns about police use of force and upheld the idea of open courts. Department of Justice attorneys said the media organizations intended to use the footage to sell newspapers. What should have been a regular trial for Obadiah Dillard, a career criminal, and his defense counsel, Eric Atria, morphed into something much more severe. Dillard hit Atria in the left side of the head, breaking his skull. Attorneys and legislators are now seeking to effect change. "We are in those dangerous positions with a lot of dangerous people, but to see it was shocking," said Candace Brower, Regional Counsel, Office of Criminal Conflict and Civil Regional Counsel. Brower oversees the Regional Counsel, which supplies defense attorneys to Florida's 5 circuit courts. She is now collaborating with Florida Representative Pat Maney of Okaloosa to reform Florida legislation. With 2 armed officers behind him, Dillard was dressed in an orange jumpsuit and a spit mask. The spit mask was necessary because Dillard spat on Salmon during a meeting on Friday. The court let Dillard engage as much as his behavior allowed. According to Deputy Robert Smith, Dillard refused to meet with his counsel and did not wish to participate in the trial. He made suicidal remarks and asked to be sent to jail. Dillard was transported back as he had requested. Potential jurors entered the courtroom at 9:55 a.m. The procedure began with a series of specific questions for each person seated in the box. The job of the jury is to determine the facts and apply them to the law and be fair while doing it, Kramer stated. After additional possible jurors' prejudices, affiliations, or personal reasons for not being able to serve were investigated, the list was reduced to 7. Before making his opening statement, Salmon informed the jury that Dillard would not be in court. "I feel almost professionally naked," Salmon stated, alluding to the fact that his customer was not there. None of the jurors told the court that the plaintiff's absence would influence their decisions. Kramer then addressed the jury, presenting his first piece of evidence: courtroom security footage with and without the volume of the events that occurred on November 15, 2022. Salmon then delivered a brief speech, urging the jury to appreciate Dillard's anguish and regret of losing his one chance to defend himself. Kramer summoned witnesses to the stand after the prosecution, and defense had their opening remarks. They included Atria and Rich Chang, the assistant state attorney. The state rested its case not long after their evidence, and the defense followed suit shortly after that. The jury convicted Dillard of aggravated violence resulting in grave bodily damage, lifelong disability, or permanent deformity. The court condemned Dillard to 30 years in jail because he is a habitual felony offender, as defined by the law. Emotional scenes were captured during this trial when Gary Ridgway, the Washington state truck painter who admitted to killing 48 women in the 1980s, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release on December 18, 2003, and he apologized for his crimes. "I'm sorry for killing these ladies, they had their whole lives ahead of them," he admitted at his sentencing hearing in Seattle. Gary admitted to the crimes in a plea agreement that saved him the death penalty, making him the country's most prolific, convicted serial murderer. Gary Ridgway, who was 54, occasionally cried as he sought forgiveness from his family and expressed regret for the ladies who were not found. "May they rest in peace, they deserve a better place than where I gave them," he remarked during the nationally broadcast hearing. In a powerful speech from the bench before pronouncing punishment, Judge Richard Jones of King County Superior Court chastised Gary for the callous indifference and lack of sympathy he claimed Gary had towards his crimes during interviews with prosecutors. "You violated the sanctity of every relationship in your life," the magistrate stated, "as you spend the balance of your life in your tiny cell surrounded only by your thoughts. Please know that the women you killed were not throwaways or pieces of candy in a dish placed upon this planet for the sole purpose of satisfying your murderous desires." Judge Jones asked Gary to turn around and look at the faces of the victims' relatives and friends, expressing hope that the defendant would remember those faces in his dreams and private thoughts of your grisly deeds, adding, "If you have a drop of emotion, you will be haunted for the balance of your life." However, Judge Jones advised the victims' families to avoid bitterness and retribution, calling them wasted emotions. "Rather than dwelling on such thoughts, I encourage you to remember your loved ones in other ways." He urged them to find and spend time with lonely, unloved young ladies. Gary, who is from a Seattle suburb, admitted to murdering the women, who were essentially prostitutes and runaways, at his house or in his pickup vehicle while having sex with them and then discarding their corpses around Seattle. Prosecutors claimed Mr. Ridgway told them he had killed 60 women, but they only had enough evidence to link him to the 48 killings. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, then check out these videos on the screen now. If you have a topic suggestion, please send it to the email in the description. And as always, remember to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. I will see you in the next one.